Hello, in this video I'm going to show you how to 3D model an Acanthus leaf. They are really common 3D model ornaments. They are used in furniture, architecture, so it's really useful to know how to 3D model a shape like this. I'm going to do this part here because this is the most complex out of everything in this photo. So we are going to start with a sphere. We are gonna center our reference image so it helps us. Now I'm gonna give this sphere around 16 segments. I'm gonna scale it down to size. I'm gonna go to my display and I'm gonna say wireframe. Okay, so now I'm just gonna go and I'm gonna make the outer edge of the carving. Something like this. Now I'm going to delete these polygons. I'm just going to drag it out here a little bit so we have some reference points. Okay, so we can just go and continue our cutting surface. We're going to remove the polygons. Around here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the edges. And I'm just going to extrude them down. Now I want to select the points here because you can see that the model doesn't have that much of a depth in it. It's more flatter than our model here. So we need to correct that. So I'm going to take these points and I'm going to raise them up a little bit. Straighten them out with the scale tool. Maybe send them down. Something like this. Add a subdivision surface. Okay. And now I'm gonna start bridging the new edges I made with the old ones from the sphere. And I'm gonna see what kind of shape I get. Because from here on now, this is going to change the way I 3D model the object. Okay, so it looks pretty good. I can delete this here. Now, what I need to do is I need to segment this model. So I'm going to extrude this outwards. I'm going to weld this point here. And I'm going to try to keep the shape of the wall that's coming outwards and of the sphere in the same time. So, let me just take these models, put them like so. Weld the points. So now this is the tricky part. We need to bridge this polygon. And now let's look a little bit at the shape outwards. And let's try to make it fit the image. Because it's starting to bother us at this point. It's starting to get a little bit in the way. So I'm just going to drag them out. See how it looks. Then I'm going to start adjusting some small details. Something like this. Okay, let's tidy them up a bit so we still have a sphere. Okay, now what we're gonna do is we're gonna raise this edge a little bit, because how usually this is done is they just come in and they start carving into a wooden sphere. So this would usually be a little bit up, a little bit higher, higher, and kind of this height. This one needs to go a little bit down. Something like this. This is starting to look more like an Acanthus leaf. So let's model the details. Okay. I'm thinking of moving this edge a little bit higher. Let's try proportional. Okay. Now what's going to happen is this edge is going to continue with the wall. Okay, so we're going to need to segment. Something like this. We're going to weld the edges. Very good. But we can see that the wall is going to come from this point. So what we're going to do here is we're going to start and enhancing the wall. We have this edge. And we are going to extrude it once around here. Great. Because this part usually isn't flat, it's more curved. So this extra topology here is going to help us a lot. Let's do these polygons because they're kind of in the way. Okay. Now we have to fill up this gap, which we're gonna do by creating a triangle and then fixing it. I'm gonna cut this. You usually want to have your points more evened out when you're trying to get round, nice looking surfaces. Okay, so we have this topology right here. I'm gonna bring it around here, then I'm gonna put it upwards. Okay, and let's see, if I weld it here, it doesn't look good, but if I push this back a little bit, push it down until it's kind of on the same level as the sphere. Now let me just select these points. Let's make them on the same level. And now I'm gonna bridge these two edges together. Okay. And now this is gonna come bridged, and this is gonna come bridged. And let's see what kind of problems we have here. We have two triangles, and if we melt one of the triangles, we only have one. Okay. What we want to do is we want to try and fix this part right here, so it continues on with the circle. Here, it might help to add another set of points. Let's take them out a bit, give this a nicer shape. Okay, I can move this point a little bit down, down, and the last one is on the ground. And now if we want this shape to be rounded, this part right here, what we first want to do is want to grab the last set of points and make sure that they are on the same level. Okay. We're going to grab the points from underneath, make sure they are on the same level. Okay. And now let's see, how are we doing on our reference image? Pretty good, pretty good. Okay. Now I want this part not to be straight, but to be concave. So I'm just going to grab this point right here and make sure they're on the same level. Okay. I'm going to bring them down a bit. I'm going to select the last two. I'm going to bring this down a bit and a little bit inwards. Great. Now we're going to take the last edges and we're going to scale them. Okay, so we get a nice flat surface to work with. Something like this. And now we're just following the shape. Modifying it where necessary. Leaving it as it is where it's not necessary. Again, if the image doesn't follow the reference 100%, it's not such a big problem. Because usually Acanthus leaves are in many different shapes. Okay, starting to resemble our reference image. We still have some more work to do. Something like this. And here we usually need a little bit more topology, so I'm just going to add another more layer. Great. Now we can start moving the points as they need to be moved. Okay, this one's going to go a little bit here. This one is going to go backwards. We are maintaining the main shape. Now we see here that this curvature comes and then goes into itself. So we're going to take these 2 points, move them like so. Okay, I'm going to move this point here, this point here. Okay, now let's look at what we have so far. Good, good, looking good. What we may want to do is we may want to scale this down a little bit. Something like so. Then we're going to select the next row, scale it down. Okay, so the passage isn't too abrupt. I'm just going to reduce these points a little bit. Okay, so now let's work some more on this part right here. Okay, so now let's look at this point. We can see that it is a little bit soft, softer than it should be. So how can we fix this? Well, we're just gonna give it some edge loops. Let's see if I can. No. Okay. This is kind of an unfortunate edge loop because it goes farther than I would need it to go. So you can see that now it already starts to look better, but we get this hardened edge here, which we don't need. And also never forget to have checked the connect cut edges. Yeah, now it's looking better. Okay, so let's look a little bit at what we have here. We need this edge that supports our top part, but we do not need this edge which ruins our sphere. So we're just gonna go and we're gonna start to weld the edges. Select weld. So we're just doing this really fast. I'm pressing space to switch between my brush select and my weld point. This went really fast. So now it looks more like it should. I still don't like this part here. This goes up too fast. I wanted to have a little bit of a climbing motion. Okay. A little bit down. A little bit down. A little bit down. Okay, so we have like a nice, yeah, something like this. Maybe we can take this point out. Very good. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna start modifying the points a little bit so they match what they should be. Let's check the image. Yeah, we can see that the image is really bigger in this part. Now, it would have been fine to be left as is, but let's just, for the sake of the argument, move it like in the image. Okay, now we need to move these exterior points as well. And when you're 3D modeling acanthus flowers, you really need to imagine them being carved, because when you imagine how somebody would carve them, it's really simpler to basically imagine your 3D modeling process and imagine how everything should look. Maybe this one's a little bit down. This one is too down. Okay. Up, up. Yeah, something like this. Now, I want this to be a hardened edge too. So I'm just gonna add. Actually, I'm just gonna select this edge. I think this will be a simpler method. Okay, go here, here. I'm just going to press MS and I'm just going to add a bevel to it. I'm going to weld these points shut because don't generally need them. Here, yeah, I'm going to weld these points too. Okay, so now it looks way better. What I want to do is I want to move these points a little bit outer. Something like this. Okay. So you always want to check the shape, see that it has continuity. Okay. Okay. This part here comes out a little bit too much. Something like this. This part can go in as well. Because all of these small details are gonna make the shape seem unfinished if they're not taken care of. And here we can see that this round circle goes just straight around here. This isn't good. So we're just gonna try and keep the curvature of the object, even if it doesn't resemble the reference image, because the reference image is usually taken with perspective. Okay. So basically this should go from small and then keep its distance. This can go farther back a bit, farther back a bit, same. Okay. This one can go too. Again, it's really important to know how the shape is made, because in this case, if I were to 100% follow the reference image, the model wouldn't be okay. See, so straight on, it looks way better like this than like this. So let me just do a little bit more corrections right here to keep the curvature. Okay. And when you use the subdivision surface, it's really easy to see mistakes because they pop out immediately. Like this is round, 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 round. And here we have this bump, which is not good. Okay. Okay, so something like this. Let's see, how is our curvature doing? Yeah, this needs to be way more in now that I've moved those points. Okay. Now, it wouldn't be a bad idea to take these points outward. Like so. Like so. Now, let me adjust this point. Yes. Something like this. Okay. So now let's adjust the rest of the points. This can go back a little bit. This can go back. This can go back. This point right here can do the same. Okay. This point here can also get more inside the shape. So something like this. This point, of course, needs to be way outer. And this needs to slowly just come into the shape. Like here, it's way outside, and then it gets into it. Okay, so now this edge needs to be farther outside to match the exterior. Okay, now we can go here, pinch this object a little bit inside. Good. Now, of course, you can tweak this object more, and if you get the topology right and understand the mechanism, it's really simple to 3D model the rest of the scene if you wish, or mostly any other Acanthus leaves, because they usually have the same elements in them. Let's just give this some thickness. Okay. Now I see here that we have a point that looks weird. Let's just move this guys a little bit in the exterior. Great. Now let's just tidy it up a bit. Okay. Now let's just make a quick Corona 3D material. Okay, we're just gonna go here. We're gonna give it some color. Let's give it a nice gold color. Let's go to reflection. Let's put this to like 8. Let's change the color a little bit. Okay. Let's add a sky. Let's change the render to Corona. Let's actually get the intensity a little bit down. Let's make the material a little bit less glossy. Okay, so you can see here that we have this ugly bump. Good thing we spotted it. Okay. Yep. So we're just gonna pull this a little bit outwards. Okay. Now let's see what's causing this bump. Well, mainly because it has these 2 points that I forgot to weld. Yeah, and now it's fixed. So with the topology skills that you've seen today, it's really easy to basically 3D model any Acanthus detail. And now if you would want it to 3D model it or cut it on a CNC router, all you'd have to do is press MD and let's triangulate it. Just fill the holes, then add an edge loop here to support everything. Now it's ready to be 3D printed or CNC router. And if you want to check the mesh to see that it hasn't got any holes, so that the 3D modeling or 3D printing software will read it correctly, just go to mode, modeling. Here we have mesh checker. We're just going to enable mesh checker, and it's going to say how many bad edges we have, and it's going to color code them. But we don't really need to know if we have isolated points, edge points, complex points, non-manifolds. Boundary edges we do, but bad polygons no, and not planar polygons. And what does boundary edge do is it shows you if a 3D model is closed or not. So if we look now, it selected a polygon. Let's see what it selected. Okay, so it sees this polygon and not being closed. Okay. And we can see that it color codes it with a green line. So let me just select all these points, weld, select these points, weld, and we can see that the line disappeared. This is really good for way more complex objects, because if we make this editable, now we have a lot of polygons. And maybe here you could be missing a few, and you don't notice them. But if you just go here, modeling, and you can just select the edges, and it will automatically select the edges to the gap. You can press MD, close it. We can see that the edges basically disappeared. Yeah, it doesn't have anything to select. This is ready for 3D printing.